Peace, harmony, balance, love, joy, happiness, light, life, sun, rays, plants, animals, brother, light. We have this dear brother, one of my dearest. I mean, as much as the illusion of a best friend isn't, I don't know, I don't really like the idea of calling somebody my best friend, but I would say this brother right here is very close to my heart as we've lived together in Costa Rica, where he is still on the Holy Lands, stewarding sacred land in the Diamante Luz Valley. And but I'll let him share more. Yeah, so this is episode 6 of the Moonas Magica podcast. Moona meaning silence in Sanskrit, and magic speaks for itself. So we got brother Conscious Bliss here, also known as Light, or Tyler was the name that his parents gave him. So welcome, brother. Happy to have you on. We will see what happens with the channel, but I'd like you to take it away to share a little bit about yourself, where you're at, what you get up to on a daily basis, why you do what you do, and yeah, share with the audience, whoever's tuning in. So please.
Gracias, hermano. I love you. And thank you for opening the channel for whatever to come through, trusting in the word that manifests from where. And you got that Palo Santo chuffing, absolutely chuffing in there. A hot box in that room at this point. It's nice to be here. There was a lot of questions there, but I guess I can open by just connecting with whoever's on the other side of this audio or video and saying that here we are. Isn't it beautiful to be alive and take a nice deep breath? I've been having, in all honesty, a hard time with the human experience in the third dimension recently. And, a lot of the existential questions coming up regarding purpose and where we're directing our attention, where we're directing our energy. And, all of us here, this main theme keeps playing through my consciousness, which is that all of us here are given so much power every single day by Creator. Every single breath we have the potential to go plant a tree, or in a day we can seed a forest. And all of us have this capacity that is essentially creator power to seed generations or plant forests. And what are we doing with all of this power that creator gives us? And, we have choice in this existence, and we can up spiral and we can create life, and we can down spiral and we can take life and even take our own attention through, draining it into sources which don't really nourish us, but rather take from us, like
Mm.
whether it's substance abuse or looking at things online that you don't really need to be looking at and don't really work towards your mission. And
Mm.
I recognize there's a balance there. But who am I? At the end of the day, I'm also just a humble student and a humble steward of human consciousness. And we all hit the lottery by landing in these beautiful bodies with this beautiful consciousness and having this opportunity to choose to polarize, to go towards making the magic that is inherently inside of us into the outer reflection. I live in Costa Rica. I guess I can open with my story that I tell most people regarding
Yeah,
scalar energy, which
absolutely.
is that I grew up in Vancouver, BC, and in 2020, I got hit with the 5G, and I've always been really, really sensitive to the fields, whether it's, chemicals in your laundry detergent or the chlorine pools always had me breaking out in these hives. And when the 5G turned on, I got completely disoriented. I was dizzy. I was not sleeping right. I was hearing ringing in my ears. I was nauseous. I was just, and overall, my coherence and my balance was gone. And I would return to the forest, and I would feel amazing. And by the time already while driving home, feeling sick again, which really, really like exposed to me what was going on. And I did some looking, and I had heard whispers about 5G before. I took a look, and the same time my symptoms started was the same day they turned it on, which was confirmation for me. So I moved out to, I moved out to work on a farm in Oliver, BC, and then in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m., I woke up to the same sound. And I knew again, like, okay, it's followed me all the way here. And I had to leave the country. So I essentially left everything that I was experiencing in life at 18 years old because of radiation. And at this point, I had no study into scalar energy. I had no study into radiation. And it altered my path so significantly that it led me to devoting a very high level of attention towards understanding what is radiation. And that was kind of like the rabbit hole that opened. So from radiation, it went to, that portals you into many other aspects of where there's incoherence. And shout out to Brother Gaia connecting us and teaching, great teacher. He teaches the concept of paramagnetism, how different materials have an effect. And so from my studies, I have some things to share regarding radiation and coherence. And what I'll tell you is that all of the fields which are bothersome to the human body are that which are not creating coherence. So these Wi-Fi routers, these cell towers, these cell phones, none of them are creating a harmonic or a balanced or a symmetrical geometry within the field. Rather, they're creating chaos. So they have no structure. So when they go through the field, they create chaos. They destructure, they denature, like a Wi-Fi router would, or a cell tower, or a cell phone. These are water destructuring devices. And we're made of water. All biology is made of water. And water has this beautiful capacity to synchronize. So you've probably seen uh, the sand on the metal plate experiment where they play a frequency or hit the plate with a violin. I don't know what you would call that, whatever you play a violin with. And it self-organizes into geometries. So water does the same thing. You play music in the water, and water will take on the pattern of the music. So we're always taking on the pattern. This is what we're focusing on here. It's the fact that we synchronize. The law of synchronization is what I'm teaching right now. And because we are made out of water, and water synchronizes to its environment, we will literally begin to come into resonance with our environment. So this is why so many of the teachers tell you to go to nature, because nature is putting out the geometry or the synchronizing factor of source. It's a very aligned, harmonic, and coherent, balanced energy field which resonates with our DNA in a good way and brings forth our health, our coherence, our balance. And really just keeping the concept and the awareness in its simplest form of water taking on the pattern of its environment. As we've created environments for humanity which aren't necessarily coherent, the human body is beginning to synchronize with these environments. The concrete, the steel, the rubber, the plastic, the engines that use explosive energy, which literally is disrupting and disorganizing the etheric field with every explosion. The driving cars is even not so aligned, and then the frequency by which we conduct electricity is also not aligned. So now we're in a realm, we're in a world, we're in an environment which is no longer coherent with the organization of water. So our water bodies are being disorganized, destructured. And this is what's causing all this disease, all this imbalance. Of course, aside from, taking in the toxins, but the environment is so essential. So my message to everyone here in regards to the law of synchronization is if we can create a field of coherence for our body to synchronize with, we will naturally find balance. And, New Earth to me is the holding of awareness with these concepts and creating with them, building with them, rather than using concrete, metal, steel, plastic. We use stone, we use wood, we use these natural materials from the earth which resonate with the earth and conduct the earth's resonance. And then we use geometries like pyramids, like domes, like spirals to also direct and energize the ether that we're always breathing in. You can't go many minutes without taking a breath. And we're always receiving this charge. And if we can create a good charge in the environment and then an environment which is also aligned with the principles of coherence and the laws of vibration. And we're going to synchronize with that coherence and be much healthier in our mind, body, and spirit and have a lot longer of lives. So through my experience and, my story of growing up in Canada and going through the 5G, well, that's what ultimately brought me to the scalar technology in these fields of coherence. And I know that's going to be a topic for us today in this conversation. We're really just starting at the grassroots of where I came from. And, a lot of the time, the quote unquote bad things that happen to us are really the best things that happen to us, the opportunities to to learn, to grow, to expand, to recode, recondition. So I come from Vancouver in this human body, and because of that experience, I now have a lot of love for conductors and copper and paramagnetic materials and scalar energy, harmonic tools. So that's my intro, Shanti.
Thank you, brother. What were the effects that you were noticing, um, more than just the ringing in the ears, like in the fatigue, and also from what you've learned, like what is it that generally people experience with the negative reaction to these frequencies coming off the towers, and not only the towers but the Wi-Fi? Like how how damaging is it when you understand that everything is frequency and vibration, and then how important is it to be harmonizing these fields, with this technology? And then if you want to also share about your knowledge of what we create, the tensor tech, and how important it is to have it these days, and to utilize it on a daily basis for many reasons. So if you want to share about that.
For sure, brother. Now, there's a lot of rabbit holes one could go down with this topic, and a lot of them, have some darkness lurking in there. That's not really where I choose to focus our collective attention, but I want to keep it to, being educational, not so conspiratorial. What I'll say is that the human body, and we have to stick with this. This is very important that we don't start spreading the message that you need something outside of yourself to heal or to be coherent.
Mm,
The reality of everything in this earth is that it's helping you to heal yourself if it's beneficial. So like you don't eat fruits and vegetables and think that, they healed you. You know that they gave your body the energy necessary to heal itself.
mm,
It's the same with these tools, we're actually just holding space and feeding the body like a supplement, an energetic supplement for the body to heal itself. So these tools aren't healing us. That's really important that we make that known
mhm,
and keep power within the people to know that they're healing themselves and the divine intelligence of the body. We cannot undermine that. And in regards to these towers and the frequencies and my experience, I experience being like if living life in a healthy way is like riding a horse, I experience like getting completely knocked off the saddle and like hitting the ground. Like I was very, very, very exhausted, very incoherent. I was very stressed out. It was like a
mm,
stress response in my body.
mm,
And I was not used to being stressed like that. And I was very concerned. I was even getting to the point of, I was at the point of being in fear, being afraid at what was happening. And, I don't really share this often, but every frequency has a color wave to it. So the lower the frequency, you get like red, root chakra, right? You got that low vibration. Go a little higher, you got orange, right? Sacral. You go a little higher, you got that yellow ray. A little higher, much higher, 5 times greater than the yellow, you got the green ray,
mm,
so on and so forth. And when I was in Vancouver before I left, I went to the highest point in the city, which is called Queen Elizabeth Park. And they had a number, just several towers right on top of this park. And this park is where all the city's water is held, so it can be irrigated through buoyancy and density, also known as gravity, to people. And I just saw and I experienced, and I felt like I was a little bit in my own bubble because I was experiencing things that people around me weren't experiencing due to my sensitivity.
Mm,
And I went there with a friend, and my ears were screaming in this park. And I was like asking my friend, like, are you not hearing this? Like,
mm,
what's going on? Like, why am I experiencing what other people aren't? And it felt like a doomsday event for me. Like the whole sky in the city was red.
mm.
And it was all chemtrails. It was just chem and red. And it
Wow.
was red from the extremely low frequencies bouncing off and making that color, right? Because we know red is the root chakra, it's the bottom of the color spectrum. It's the lowest frequency, and the whole sky was literally red. And I was hearing this ringing in my ears, and I'm looking at the chemtrails and I'm looking at the towers, and I'm like, where am I? Like, is this actually my experience right now of Earth? Is this really where I incarnated? It felt like a little bit of a like just existential, extremely existential moment.
Yeah.
And that was right before I left to Oliver, BC, like I shared. And when we're going into these tools, there's a really deep rabbit hole, like I said to this. You can look up MK Ultra and how there are public patents called speech to skull. You can look that up, where words can be put into people's heads through wireless frequencies.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, ultimately, this is all about, because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We're in a situation where there's absolute power that has absolutely corrupted certain families, and they're using this power to get more power, and it's an endless loop, just like how when you chase a pleasure, it just leads to the next one and then an endless search. So really, we're in a situation where we must be, we can't wait for a shift. We have to be this shift and make it happen on the earth, which I genuinely believe starts with education. It starts with knowing what the problem is, because you're not going to solve it until you know what it is.
Mm,
And if we can just keep in mind that the environment has a large effect on the water of all biological systems, and start with the environment, start bringing and amassing coherence into the environment. And, we're going to tune in probably later on this podcast about different ways we can do that, pyramids being one of them, tensor technology another, orgonite another one, grounding, antennas. There's many different modalities we have access to right now that can provide us with fields of coherency. And I really want to focus on solutions, because we can endlessly breed fear and talking about all all the problems that are here. But I think bringing awareness to the problem and then switching over to the solution right away is really how we can recode and reprogram this, so we don't down spiral into the problems, because they're plentiful, they're abundant, but
yeah.
as polarity and duality goes, the solution is created the exact same moment the problem was created. So
Mm,
all the solutions are already here. So yeah,
yeah.
I don't want to dive too deep into
Yeah.
what's
Um,
going on there.
so let's start when somebody wakes up, right? Um, they wake up, maybe have their tea, have their coffee, whatever. Check their phone, check their email. What what is the best way for people to start um utilizing the tensor technology and even orgonite? Like, how would you share it with somebody that is just starting to learn and is having that intuitive feeling that this is the real, real deal, this is real technology? As much as the ego mind might doubt it, there's always that, because it is an illusion, right? It's just rising in the, you can't stop the heart's intuition. So how would you describe and share with somebody that's just learning, and maybe give them some simple tips on how to start utilizing the tech? Um, Whether it's having an organite pyramid or simple tensor ring.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the time people continuously enjoy, in a way, like externalizing their power. And I really believe that as stewards of this technology, we're here to remind people that the power has been, always will be, and is with them. And, we're talking about a conductor in the case of scalar technology. We're utilizing conductors. So, what do conductors do? They conduct, obviously. And they conduct more than electricity, they conduct cosmic electricity, which I would call consciousness. And the capacity of the tool is directly correlated to one's level of attention slash intention given to the tool. So before I go into, how I would use the ring, I first want to, or the harmonizer, this or that, I want to talk about the human biofield because we
Yes.
got to bring awareness to what's actually going on here. So every biological system has an aura. It has an electromagnetic field, which is usually toroidal, so coming out the top and the bottom. And this is the fundamental pattern in the universe. Just look at the electron, or the atom. So when we nurture and take care or strengthen the biofield, we're not just strengthening the body, right? We're strengthening the biofield. And this biofield, because we're human biological systems, we're extremely paramagnetic. We have all of these organic materials in us. We actually have metals in us. Our skin is made out of copper. Our brain has copper in it. All our organs have copper in it, especially your heart, liver, kidney. But collagen, the connective tissue itself in your body, is made out of copper.
Mm.
So if you're copper deficient, you're going to have I'm going to just sidetrack on this for one moment.
Yeah, yeah.
The most, I think this is important for people to know. And I know I jump out all over, but it's all valuable. So the most common pesticide in the world is called glyphosate. And
Mm.
glyphosate has a quality of stripping copper from the soil. And when you take glyphosate into your body, what does it do? It strips the copper from your body.
Wow.
So copper is the main carrier of iron. So we see a lot of iron deficiency, and it's because of copper deficiency, because no matter how much iron you eat, if you're not uptaking that with copper, carrying it with copper in the body, you're not getting any of it. So when they did studies in the United States, large, vast parts of the population are copper deficient, and it's due to the soil being copper deficient due to the glyphosate.
Mm.
So, you can begin consuming high copper foods. Just take a little Google search, what has a lot of copper in it? Or you can physically wear copper, and that will uptake the exact amount of copper you need in your body, into your body. And that will assist you with the main diseases we see. What are the main diseases of modern day? Alzheimer's and arthritis. Those are two of the main diseases we humans deal with. What
Mm.
is arthritis? Connective tissue, copper. What is Alzheimer's? Memory loss, conductivity of the brain. What is conductivity of the brain? Copper. So really just tying these things back into copper, I've studied copper quite a bit now, and the more I do, the more I see it's very divine and intertwined with the human experience and the human body
Mm.
as a conductor. And if we're full of conductors, just think we're going to be conducting the natural frequencies of Earth even better. So, coming back now, reeling it back into the biofield, we're talking about strengthening the biofield. So, this starts with actually nutrients. If you're nutrient deficient, your biofield is going to be weakened.
Mm.
So, it's important that you have the right nutrients in your body. And I recommend people do blood work and
Mm.
they see, where am I deficient? Because that's going to be some huge keys towards bringing back coherence into your biofield, which is also working with the law of attraction and manifesting, what you're envisioning, what you're desiring in a good way.
Mm.
So, starting with that, starting with the blood and starting with the biofield, and then we go to the environment, which is, ultimately talking about electrical potential as well, like pH. What is pH? It's electrical, it's hydrogen, it's electrical potential. And oxygen levels are also tied in with this, right? Your pH is related to your oxygen levels. And basically, if you can imagine your biofield to be a toroidal field that reorganizes its environment. So say you had water near you like this. I'm actually structuring this water just by sitting near it because I'm paramagnetic and
Mm.
I'm creating a biofield and I'm structuring this water just by being the presence here and now that is organizing.
Mm,
because consciousness is the organizing intelligence.
mm,
Um, which speaks to how these tools have consciousness because of how they organize water in the ether.
mm,
But so when you strengthen your biofield, you're basically increasing your capacity to reorganize the field around you in a good way. If you have a weak biofield, you're probably not going to be naturally reorganizing the EMF radiation in the same way.
mm,
But if you personal biofield before any of these tools, before the organite, before the tensor technology, before you even begin to externalize your power, know that you are paramagnetic, which means you have an organizing intelligence, which means you can restructure Wi-Fi, you can structure water,
mm.
you can disarm the radiation attacks, and we have more power than what's outside of us. You know, you can go in and activate a Merkaba field. You
Mm.
can also begin to take deep breaths and ionize yourself and become more paramagnetic through the oxygenation of your body.
Like,
Yeah,
can we take like a 3-minute intermission and can you guide us through Merkaba activation along with breath work, or do you want to do that later on?
I would say let's tune into that at some point. I like
Okay.
that. Let's
Okay.
do
Yeah,
let's
keep
just
on going.
let's
I
help people.
apologize for cutting you
Oh,
off.
it's good. I like it. I would say let's definitely help people, and I think we can do this together because we can bring people into the ultimately, what are we doing is we're turning our attention inwards, and when the attention is inwards, it will naturally rise because
Yes.
the quality of energy is to rise. So the Merkaba activation, this, that, like, it's Melchizedek has a whole book on this, activating your Merkaba.
Hmm.
I would recommend that for folks. But, just come into the biofield, just look first to strengthen your individual biofield and know that these tools can help you do that, but you don't need them. They're amplifiers and it's a reciprocal relationship. So you strengthen the tool in turn, it strengthens you, in turn, you strengthen it, and it goes in a feedback loop and a positive polarization. It's an upcycle, up spiral. And you can even look up, like, I think it's on Twisted Sage's YouTube account,
Mm,
but they took a Triskelion, which is this one in the middle, and they took GDV imaging of it, which is called gas discharge visualization, but I think it's inappropriately named because I don't really consider it to be gases what they're filming. It's really ether. So I would call it ether discharge visualization.
mm,
But GDV imaging is the name. And you can look up Hedica or Triskelion GDV imaging on YouTube. And you'll see a video of the inherent energy it's releasing, visualized. And then they take the Trisky and they pray into it. And they give it a prayer of love and a prayer of light. And they literally hold it and just give it their attention.
mm.
And they put it back under the GDV image, and it's suddenly emitting 3 times the amount of energy. So by working with these tools consciously, you're literally multiplying their power, which is then going to help you with your power, which then you can put into the tool, which will help you with your power, which you can then put into the tool. This is what I mean by the reciprocal reciprocity cycle, which can begin. All right. So I'd say that's pretty good breakdown on the biofield, what you can do. Just remember to, be hydrated, be conductive, breathe properly so that you have oxygenation and paramagnetism flowing through your body, chi flow. Even just sitting upright will strengthen your biofield, literally. And take care of yourself for Pete's sakes. Everyone, like exercise, like do the things. Take care of yourself first. And then like look, how can I make this better?
Yeah.
But really start this with you. Don't start it outside of you because then you're going to be on a chase that lasts forever.
Yeah.
We don't want to start you on that chase. So that's what I would say. And I can tune into the tech if you think it's appropriate.
Yeah, it is appropriate. Just keep on sharing for now.
Okay, word. Um, so I love to talk about this stuff. I really do have a passion for it. And copper is a divine thing. Copper is ruled by the planet Venus. All the noble metals, the 7 noble metals, are ruled by the 7 luminaries. And copper is ruled by Venus. So Venus is actually the planet of romance and love.
Mm,
So copper is a very loving. And what is the energy of love, y'all? Love is the strongest energy out there, right? So we're taking this naturally conductive material which conducts the love energy, which is amazing, I believe.
Yes, it is, brother.
And we're essentially creating a tuning fork out of it.
Mm,
So you can imagine that tuning forks with different measurements have different resonance. You know, the short ones are pretty high pitch, the long ones are pretty low pitch.
mm,
And we're essentially tuning this tuning fork based on measurement, just like a tuning fork is. So the different measurements of the copper wire will inherently have a different resonant frequency. So for example, this is 333 hertz, where this is 432 hertz, where this is 144 hertz. So all different measurements with different resonance. And basically, whenever you have two equal forces, we're talking about scalar energy now. To create a scalar wave or scalar field, you need to have two energies that are in resonance, okay? And you can see scalar generators that are being produced out there that have essentially 2 points within the device that hit each other in the middle. All they're doing is directing energy at each other and colliding that energy. And that collision is where this scalar field is being created. And I say scalar field over scalar wave
mm,
because the wave takes time to move through space, but the scalar field it bypasses this whole time and space thing. It's once it appears, it's quantum. It's there. It's opening the etheric field, which is always present. Okay, now bringing in another concept into the consciousness field, which is that right now here, every frequency exists. All of them here and now. They're not going to be there and then, right? All those frequencies are here now. So with the ring or the antenna or this or that, what we're doing is you could call the ring a magnetic antenna. It's been called this. So what we're doing is we're essentially just like if you could imagine all the frequencies to be wind, like for a physical representation. When you create the antenna, it's like putting your sail up into the wind and you just start catching that frequency.
mm.
So the frequency is already here. We're just grabbing it and amplifying it with the, right? It's
Yeah.
all here now, of course. I think we all inherently know this at some level. So utilizing these antennas, and like I said, with the scalar field, those generators, which all they're doing is colliding equal energies. And in that collision point, you have the opening of the etheric field and you have the scalar effect. So these are, of course, the tensor ring is two opposite flowing electrical circuits cut to the exact same measure, which is a harmonic measurement acting as an antenna to create collisions. So like I said, with the prayer and the programming of the copper, at every single crossing point of the tensor ring, you have what's called an electromagnetic null zone. All that means is there's a space in there where there's absolutely no electromagnetism, which means that it's like a black hole. It's like a quantum gateway. I'll leave that there. Quantum gateway. So when you open up this quantum gateway, that's the space you can program. That's the space where you can put your intention, where you can apply prayer or apply programs and have that effect within the field generated.
Mm-hmm.
So what these are is essentially just opening the etheric field. It's opening the Akashic records for us to start programming. And we can always do this. But this is, like I said, don't externalize this. This is a tool. This is an amplifier. This is working with you. You work with it. It works with you. And you work together with the field. And I think it does help having a physical representation, something to look at, something to touch, something to pray into. And, you know, quartz, if you can see in there, and copper have the exact same molecular structure. Those tetrahedral. And for those who have the science mind, who are looking to be convinced about this technology, you can look into some of the deeper aspects like piezoelectricity, where any material with an imbalanced proton, electron-proton balance within the molecular lattice, when you apply pressure to that lattice, it separates the protons to one side, the electrons to the other. You have a flow and electricity is created. So by squeezing these wires, by squeezing the copper, we're generating energy. And then you can look into the galvanic reaction, which is when you mix anything with a positive and negative charge, like an earth battery, for example. There's a measurable electrical charge generated due to the separation of charge with the positive and the negative charge. So we have positive copper and the negative silver charge. So you have a galvanic battery happening in there. And, you know, I can go into more side conversations about how we can use these effects for the new Earth, like the galvanic battery and the positive and negative charges. Like if you put a copper rod in the ground and then you run ideally a galvanized zinc steel wire underground from that copper antenna, and ideally exactly north and south, to then a zinc rod, which has a negative charge. The copper will be pulling the energy in. The galvanized zinc will conduct it north-south, and then that you can use any negatively charged metal, but zinc is cheapest. A zinc rod will shoot the energy out. So you can have an electrical cycle happening and then plant along that wire or build a home on it and have this flow of chi. And whenever there's flow of energy, there's health. You look at a river that's stagnant, it's full of fungi and bacteria and mud, but when a river's really moving, it's clean and it's vital. So it's the same with our body. It's all about chi flow and the spaces that we're in. Why you always want to have a window open or have energy moving.
Mm, thank you, brother. Let me open up this window and then I have a question for you. Um,
Stay hydrated, y'all.
so how do you see when we're talking about New Earth and communities being formed and being starting to merge and decide and take action to potentially say buy some land and then start to get out of the cities, and whether like move into Costa Rica or simply say in Ontario, Canada here, moving out of the city, how and when do you see like all of this happening on a bigger scale, as the revelation is we're in the midst of the revelation? And if you want to share about this knowledge that all of the ancient traditions would speak about as the end of a cycle, or for instance, in the Vedas, they're talking about the end of Kali Yuga and then moving into Sat Yuga. That's just one example, but how do you feel with your own heart knowing, where do you feel like we're at in all of this? And then if you want to maybe talk about community and how you vision New Earth, and then potentially, if you have the space, relating it to the free energy technology that has been on Earth, for millennial, but has simply been suppressed and intentionally shot down by the forces that are negatively polarized, who live off enslavement, domination, control, and yeah. So how do you see all this in relation to heaven on earth, and what is to come? And yeah, I would love to hear. Yeah, I know how much you contemplate, so I'd love to hear what the few years of all this has kind of come for you, and then yeah, we'll go from there, and I'll have some questions after.
Word. Well, I want to start with disarming a belief I think a lot of people have, which is that there's gonna be some world event where everything happens like that.
Mm,
That's not what I personally, of course, I'm here in humility, not knowing everything. So this is my humble personal opinion, which
mm,
isn't capital T truth. It's a perspective. And I think a lot of people think there's gonna be like the second coming of Christ or something where like all of a sudden there's like this big change.
right.
But like Ross said, the harvest is now. Like
Yes.
it's not in the future. Like you can polarize today. You can choose today. And you are choosing today, ultimately, whether you are conscious of that or not. And, the harvest, the way I'm going to go into the raw material a little bit right now.
Yes, please, brother.
So, Ra speaks about the different densities of Earth and how there's even a fourth density Earth in the future, and there's a third density, and even like second density Earth in the past.
Ah,
So, depending on your choices in this lifetime,
yes.
is where you're going to experience your next incarnation along the timeline of Earth and its densities. So, if
Mm,
you can imagine third density to be like ego consciousness, very service to self, fourth density to be, and the deeper you go into fourth density, the more open-hearted, the more new Earth society, golden age culture that we're going to see.
ah,
So, ideally, if you're playing the long game, which you should be because you're incarnating over and over again, your job in this life is to polarize towards the fourth density, which is heart-based consciousness, so that you can incarnate into the golden age. But we can also bring the golden age here through our own perception of it, right? Because you can say, I'm a victim in hell, or you can say, I'm a perfect being in the kingdom of heaven. And that's your choice of experience. Both are two sides of the same coin. Like you can have two people sitting side by side, and one of them is having a hell experience.
yes.
The other one of them is absolutely in heaven, bliss out.
Yes.
And that is a personal internal job. It's an
Yes.
inside job. So I want to start there, but before we go into what's happening with the earth and this
Yeah.
and that, all this, like let's start here. So just keep your choices in alignment with love and keep your heart center open and growing so that you can ultimately not only serve the earth, but in turn your future incarnations and what you're going to
Yes.
experience next. Because I'd love to be born into a golden age rather than an early third density planet. And, according to the raw material, that's where we are right now. We're early third, or sorry, very early fourth
Density.
density. So there's still a lot of third density nonsense happening,
Indeed.
like very early.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. We're very early. Earth has shifted into fourth density. So in a sense, everything that's not of unity and the green ray is now saying goodbye. Earth says goodbye. However that unfolds, we don't know yet how all of this will unfold. But hey, that doesn't matter. What matters is your state of being right now.
yeah.
Um,
Uh-huh.
and also in yeah, I mean, I love the Love One. There was first book club last night we did in the city. We got in a group and we studied till we got through session 3. Just as a cool, Ross says in the Law of One, in forgiveness lies the stoppage of the wheel of karma. Uh,
Mhm.
so brothers and sisters, forgive yourself. Forgive the and I just want to share about forgiveness here.
Please. Gold.
So forgiveness, it's it, the idea of forgiveness. It's such a it's such a precious idea here in third density, because it frees us from separation. It frees us from conflict. I'm not sure exactly what I wrote. I wrote something months ago about forgiveness, but ultimately, to whom is forgiving whom? This inquiry within, as like, what do I have to forgive somebody for? What do I have to forgive myself for? Uh, and coming to the realization that is also in the book A Course in Miracles is that forgiveness is the last illusion, which is interesting because what I found that forgiveness has done for me is that it's simply a mechanism of the mind and then it combined with the feeling, but it really just brings you back to the moment. Is in similar like saying I am. This is that is another way of forgiveness. Forgiving the illusion for being an illusion. That's all you have to forgive. You simply forgive the evolutionary process of uh this third density, uh you know, this it's just an aspect of it's just an aspect of evolution, really. So yeah, so forgiveness is simply returning back to where you've actually never left, which is conscious being, Satchit Ananda. And this is the eternal state of silent consciousness, which it never leaves. The one thing we can say we're certain about is that you exist. That's what I always ask brothers and sisters if they're in a rut or something. I'll say, do you exist? Like, but besides what you're complaining about, or besides what you're finding a problem about, can you tell me that you exist? They will say yes. And I say, stay there, stay here. Just don't move from where I just brought you. And so this brings us to, self-attention and the skill of returning your attention back to uh what what actually is attention itself, which is awareness, because uh that's really all that there is consciousness. So that's just a side note of forgiveness. And um yeah, I mean, first of all, forgive quote unquote others for anything that they've done to you or you feel that they've done to you, and transcend it. And you can use simply something like this in your mind. Just say instead, oh, everything is perfect, with the feeling. Like, don't fake it, but do it, like, because we're just making all this up. So you can do, oh, this is, I forgive that person for what they did. I actually love that person at my core, and see that they didn't do that to me. That was just what they needed to evolve, or what they think they needed to do to expand. And that's really all you have to do. And then, yeah, and then forgive the self, the little self, for simply being eternally ignorant uh of
Yep.
your real self. So
Yep.
what we have to distinct the real self and the illusory self.
Yeah.
And maybe Brother Light can go on about this, but I just think that this is really important, family, to
100%. 100%.
this is the key, at least for me, that was like the most obvious thing to get, was that you exist prior to thought, and that you actually have nothing to do with your thoughts. You are the awareness. And right when you realize that this is the truth, you have become in alignment with creation, God himself, herself, because guess what? You can't not be anything but that. Because
Yeah.
what is God but awareness? What is God but life itself?
Consciousness.
It's just so simple. And yeah, I mean, people tuning into this, that whether you've heard this or not, forgiveness is just a tool to bring you back to the eternal now, where unconditional love forever abides as love light, which is our nature. So yeah, Light, if you want to share a little bit about um your understanding of what was just shared, or we can get back into
No, no, I got some things to say.
yeah,
Firstly,
please, please go ahead.
opening up the Moonas channel and not holding that back.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just gonna drink my pee. So I'm I'm not, I'll just step outside the camera and then you
Yeah.
come in.
Word, word. Love you, family. He's on that UT wave. Get on that wave. Strengthening the biofield right now. Okay. So I want to look at this forgiveness concept as two things. Firstly, we got to talk about the gravity of the quote unquote ascension, right? And then we want to look at how there's in third density, you're perceiving a separate self. And this is the ego's tricky nature, is it's always trying to keep its existence as a separate self. And this is where it's always fooling you as awareness, you as consciousness, into identifying with being separate from all of life as life, which is what you are. So there's something that we call the self-development industry,
Mm,
and this is in complete alignment with thinking you are separate and need to improve. And there are stages to the ascension journey, of course,
absolutely.
and this serves a beautiful purpose in third density to self-improve, to improve your separate self, which is quite funny, but while you're working your way through third density, this is a concept which is very much reality for you, is that I'm separate from God and I need to improve myself because I'm separate. Now, when we're talking about fourth density, like Aaron Abke, he speaks on how when you're getting to fourth density, you have to at some point abandon
Yes.
completely the
Yes.
idea that you have to improve yourself.
Yes.
Just live in alignment with creator as creation, which is what you are. So this takes an inherent understanding which that God is perfection and that thus so is life. So is creation. So everything that's happening, what you think you need to forgive someone for, and this is why it's the last illusion, is because that doesn't need forgiveness, because it was meant to happen that way, because God is perfection, because that is how that soul or that experience is catalyzing the growth and the learning process and the polarization process. Thus, it's perfect. So failure is perfect, as Moonas has a song on.
Mm,
So when you're forgiving yourself, what you're doing is you're letting go of weight. And when you're forgiving other people, you're dropping weight. And this whole ascension thing isn't a climb.
mm,
It's not about climbing up. It's not about attaining something. It's not about reaching that and getting this and getting that. It's literally about letting go of what you're not and then just being ascended already. So this is where the non-dual factor comes in. The fourth density awareness is I'm already the Christ in the kingdom of heaven. I'm already a perfect being in heaven here and now. These are affirmations of fourth density, which is the understanding of the perfection of the universe, the perfection of God and God's creation.
yes.
And I love that we're on this conversation now because this is like full green ray right now. This is where we're straight up beaming it out.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking to you when I say if you're carrying weight, which you probably are, conscious or subconscious. I know I still am, and probably this man still is, and probably we all are because we're all here to drop the weight. And what I would say is go on an inner journey and like go through your memories from young to old to where you are now and feel all the pain points.
Mm,
There's pain points there. There's things you're holding that you haven't forgiven yourself for, that you've done. And it's literally has gravity, it has weight that's holding you in third density. It's holding you in this separate sense, this feeling like you need to self-improve.
mm.
So go through and forgive yourself for the things that you've done because you were meant to do them. And go through and forgive other people for what they've done because they don't even know. Their sins are innocence. It was only ignorance.
Mm,
So just let them be in the understanding of ignorance and in your own understanding of ignorance and know that I didn't actually have the awareness to not do this harm. And
absolutely.
I only did this harm because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm
Exactly.
I'm starting to tear up right now because this applies to my life. I've created harm. And the only way I did that was because I didn't know I was creating harm. I was ignorant.
Yes.
And we have to forgive our ignorance because how could we know? And that's how we now know. So it's perfect. It's beautiful. Like we catalyzed a whole
Mm,
basis of understanding from that experience.
yes.
Those exact experiences of descension are literally ascension experiences because you
Exactly.
learn. You
Ex
literally learn. And third density here on Earth is not easy because there's so much catalyst.
Indeed.
And this catalyst is trauma. This
Indeed.
catalyst is pain.
Indeed.
This catalyst is sadness. This catalyst is not the good part of life. It's the
Mm.
bitter. It's the sour.
Yeah.
But there's no sweet without the sour. Like every single one of these experiences is literally opportunity. And that's why Earth is so ripe for
Yeah.
ascension, because it's so full of catalyst. It's
Oh my
so full of
God.
pain. It's so full of ignorance
Oh,
that you can ascend crazy fast here.
yes.
So you can also forget who you are and go down the spiral and actually increase the length of time it's going to take you to go up this whole chain of density. But just keep remembering, like there are like in Ra, it talks about positively polarized beings that incarnated on Earth to come and help, went through all the trauma, and then chose a negative path and polarized the opposite way and screwed themselves over
Mm.
and the Earth. So know that this is by no means an easy place to be. There are higher density beings which have literally come here and failed the test and started down spiraling.
Mm.
Ra talks about that. So we need to keep that in mind and be diligent, be spiritually diligent about who you're serving. And it better not be your separate self. It's your heart, it's the unity. It's you knowing that, everything here is God's love and that you're surrounded by God's love right now and that God's love fills this day and it fills everyone around you. And we can forgive them for their ignorance and we can literally just abide, like this word. We can literally just abide in the heart, in the heart's
Yes.
grace, in the heart's peace, in the heart's love. And when we love the experience, like boom, that's the fastest way to catalyze
Yes.
yourself out of any down spiral. It's just love God
Love.
and love your neighbor like their God and forgive them like their God and love yourself like your God and forgive yourself like your God. And I guarantee you will up spiral, upcycle.
See,
Shanti.
see the creator. See the creator in every corner, release components, go back to wholeness, the substratum of what's holding the dream. The images on the screen are not real, but what's seeing is here. It's the healed one. Duality divides while infinity resides. I close my eyes, go inside. So see the,
Ah.
see the creator in every corner and love thy neighbor. Like, interesting, when I went to get fruit today, like we're so in tune with everything, and like there, when you're like gonna hold the door for somebody but they're a little far behind, and then you're like, I'll just let it go, bro. Like I effortlessly, my body just turned towards this woman and I looked at her and I was like, and I said something like, I care for you, like I care, like, and I like so nicely like witness oneself just like, and she, yeah, and because she, there was like, and she looked at me and it was like this like extra loving situation. And it was funny because even on the way down the escalator into Whole Foods, I saw this woman at the counter, and she saw me and she pulled the ring out of her pocket that I gave her last week. And she's just like, she smiled at me. And I'm like,
Yo.
"I'm come see you, family." It's like you walk outside in public and you like, you just beam. And like everybody that comes in your field is like getting blessed by like unconditional love. And it's like, that's how I like to live. Like, I'm never gonna ever, 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 ever live anything else but that. And hey, family, to do this, you don't have to do anything. You just be yourself, man. Just be as you are. See the thoughts dissolve within your mind's eye and realize that you are the light already effortlessly, naturally, and that there's no doing here. There's only being and seeing. Like Brother Light sent me a song yesterday, just said something about like watching, just watching these hands move. And I've had that experience too, just like watching the tech be made rather than like thinking that we're the one doing it. So I mean, I would love if we tap in about the doership aspect, but
Uh-huh.
let me cycle it back a little bit. We're an hour and 15 in. I say we go for another half an hour.
Mhm.
Wow. Let's get into pyramids.
Okay,
Uh,
word.
what you know about pyramids, brother? Like,
Yeah. We're going on a field trip, everyone. I'm sorry if you're on the podcast side of
it's
things.
magic school bus.
Sorry if you're on the podcast, but for those of you tuning into the video, you're getting a treat here, and I hope I don't disconnect. But okay, what is a pyramid? A pyramid is essentially an antenna, which is concentrating cosmic energy, okay? Let me know if my signal starts to weaken.
Okay, I will.
So here we have a grass field, which I am walking in. And I will tell you that all of this grass is cut at the exact same time, okay? You can see the length of the grass is very small, right? It's less than my hand. Now, over here, I've installed some antennas, the 4 directions around.
You're chopped. You got sliced up. Your carrot has been sliced into squares. All right, we've lost the light being. Come back. Come back.
Hmm.
All right, we lost you a bit, but hey. He's back. He's back. Okay.
Okay, well, we were meant
Just
to go on a field trip, but we
I
can talk
mean,
about
we still did. Just maybe describe the pyramid, what it looked like.
but essentially, I built a bamboo pyramid out there, and all the grass around the pyramid is several times, more than 10 times longer than the rest of the grass, because of the energy concentrating force. Now, I'll give a simple lesson on pyramids here. Simple. Keep it easy. So, the angle of the pyramid is very important. Ra from the Law of One also talks about creating a pyramid above 75 degrees.
25.
Why do you do that? This is 76 degrees. Why do you do that? Because it's all math and it's related to the color spectrum. It's also related to spin speed.
Do you have an
So
angle, brother? Do you have an angle tool? How do you get that to over 75?
you just cut um, you cut the upper measurement exactly 1.61 times the lower measurement, which leads to more than a 75-degree angle, 76 degrees.
Got it.
So multiply your base measurement by the 5 ratio, 1.618.
Got it.
And basically the energy here is doing a large spiral at the bottom. And you can look into Kirlian photography to literally visualize or see this energy. But it's doing a large spiral and then it's getting smaller and smaller and concentrating and increasing its spin state as it gets to the top. And then that energy comes out as a double helix, which naturally resonates at the DNA's frequency, 7.83 hertz, the Earth's frequency. So the pyramid, and it actually works better when it's not made out of a conductor. It works better inside the pyramid when it's a conductor because the metal is grabbing the energy and holding it. So you have an increased power level here. But if this were made out of like plastic or cardboard, something that doesn't conduct, it will disperse the energy more rather than trapping it in the frame of the actual pyramid.
Hmm.
So if you're looking for like large scale applications, you don't want to build it out of a conductor because you
Right.
want more energy to be in the toroidal field rather than in the physical pyramid.
Ah,
But if it's like for meditation, it's great to have a conductor, great to have copper pyramids, getting in that battery essentially. Um, but pretty much pyramids are creating a toroidal vortex, right? And that toroidal vortex is flowing energy. Whenever you have the flow of energy, you have life force. Whenever you have stagnancy, you have death force. Just two sides, the same coin, movement. So basically, pyramids have this capacity to act as an antenna to even the stars. So whatever's happening in the stars is happening in the pyramid. And it's amazing to go into a pyramid on your birthday in the same way that it is to go into under the stars on your birthday to align with the energies of the cosmos when you were born.
hmm.
You can go into the pyramid on your birthday and align, especially your birth time, and align with the energies that were present on the earth when you incarnated here, which is your individual fingerprint. So it will help to inform your body and your fingerprint on your inherent natural design and coming into this world at that point in time. But pyramids are incredible, like Patrick Flanagan put a water tank and a copper pyramid into a hospital where children were being born prematurely. And very prematurely, there was a 90% mortality rate. This is from the book Pyramid Power, which I could grab. It's just over there. And basically, he put the copper in the water in the hospital, and he said to the nurses, every time one of these babies are born prematurely, give them this water. And the mortality rate went from 90% mortality to 0. So all the babies survived after they were given the pyramid water when they're born prematurely. So it has some extremely healing, powerful effect that we don't actually fully understand, honestly. We do know that it's concentrating energy and it's dispersing it as a toroidal field. And the different measurements, like from Ra's work, will have different effects, like the 51-degree angle and the pyramids of Giza. Those are very much connected to the earth, whereas these higher degree angles, like above 75, are very much cosmic antennas. They're higher chakras. But the pyramids is a whole set of conversation. And, speaking on resonance, which the tools are working with, but to a different degree of resonant chambers and how we can use sound to create resonance.
Is that what a harmonizer does in your understanding? Like it acts like a pyramid or what?
Well, they both have a toroidal field. But the power of the harmonizer is really induction. I can describe induction briefly for those people.
Yeah, please describe it you have 30 seconds to describe induction. Go!
Are you serious?
No, I'm kidding.
Induction is essentially the fact that moving magnetic fields create a charge in a conductor, and that when you have a charge in a conductor, you make an electromagnet. That charge makes a magnetic field. So magnetism and electricity go both ways. This is the law of induction. So remember, if I were to apply a little electrical charge into this, it would make a magnetic field. If I were to put a magnetic field onto this, it will create an electrical charge. So it goes both ways. This coil is an induction coil. The tensor ring inherently and the harmonizer is an induction coil. So it's utilizing the Earth's magnetic fields to create an electrical charge within the conductor, which creates its own magnetic field. So you're playing this induction game with coils, from magnetism to electricity back to magnetism. And basically sound is a moving magnetic field. That's how you can hear it. So when you utilize sound with the harmonizer, this is where we have the real juice, the real power, because that sound is going to create such a powerful field through the harmonizer. And especially if your sound is tuned to 432 hertz, like this one, you're going to make beautiful coherent fields. So here we have the environmental clearing tape, which is a set of frequencies specifically designed for use with the harmonizer. This is an audio recording of storm clouds. And storm clouds are the most electrical event we know about on Earth. So we're just using that same concept of electricity, in other words, life force or consciousness, cosmic electricity, to create coherence within the field. So remember earlier in the podcast, I spoke on the law of synchronization. So you ever played a nice high tempo song and your body starts, you start jiving with it? That's you synchronizing with the frequency of the song. So if you can bring nice sounds like a flute or a guitar or like natural instruments tuned to harmonic frequencies into your life and start playing around, start synchronizing with these harmonics. And then you can also use the scalar tech or the pyramid. All these things are putting out a field that your body can synchronize with. So through the law of synchronization and the law of induction, the harmonizer is utilizing the law of induction to create a magnetic field. And then the law of synchronization is our body synchronizing with that field, which is conducting the Earth's natural resonance, electromagnetism. So we're essentially connecting with the Earth through these coils and the Earth's inherent natural electromagnetism, the ether, right? And we are electrical beings. Like I said, electricity relates to pH, pH relates to oxygenation, so on and so forth. So if we have a proper electrical charge, we have a proper environment to synchronize with, we will find coherence and balance and health. So that's induction for you right there. And by the way, this is, if you want an example of an induction coil, think about a fan. You can't have a wire running into the fan because then it would spin and snap the wire. So what they have is an electromagnet. So they have wires, coils, and pulsing electricity through the coils. And then they have magnets in the fan, which spins based on the pulsing electricity of the coils. So that's an explanation of induction. I think induction is really crucial to know if you really want to understand what's going on with the tensor technology. It's very much so induction.
Mm.
How much time do we got here, Moonas?
I mean, I'm willing to leave us in the love and the light. But if we want to keep going, we can keep going. I've got to head out in about 20 minutes. So if you have anything that's alive, um, podcasts are podcasts. It's really just space for us to connect and to conversate and then to put this up. And we can always do more. Focus it on certain topics, whether we could do a whole one on water. We could do a whole one on organite. We could do a whole one on songs. I don't what I'm the facilitator, I'm just holding the space. So I mean, really, for my brothers and my sisters that I trust them because I know who they are, and I just want to give you the opportunity to share. So I mean, if there's anything that's like, you have the stage, right? So anybody sharing with anybody listening on all levels of consciousness listening, just however you feel you could be of best service. This is an opportunity to positively polarize for all of us. So in whatever way that you want to polarize for yourself or polarize for another brother, another sister, even if it doesn't have to do with the technology. It could just be a life experience or anything. I just really am here to hold the space, brother. So
Thank you for doing so. I would love to, like you just bringing into the field, well, we have this time space with consciousness, other beings. If I'm going to share anything, it's the love of God.
mm,
It's bhakti. And I have some prayers here I wrote down
yes, brother.
in relation to invoking God's love that I'm open to sharing.
Thank you, brother. This is what I was hoping for.
So these are some prayers for being. Anyone can take note of these and utilize them in their daily life. And these are excerpts from actually Aaron Abke. So shout out to him.
Shut up,
So
brother.
here's some prayers. Here we are. Love, please empower me today to live in my heart fully. Love, abide in our awareness all through the day. Let us forget all things except God's love today. Remembering love and connecting to our hearts and the permanent, complete, and omnipresent perfection of creation. Remembering, Creator's love already surrounds me today. It already surrounds everything today. Eternal love is alive and available in this moment. Creator, please allow us to see your love in every moment today. Please, Creator, use us today to be an extension of thy eternal love, to glorify creation by demonstrating unconditional love and the spirit of service. Adonai. That's what this is about, y'all. That's what this is all about. And you know, if I have the time space to shout out things, shout out to Aaron Abkey. Go
Yes.
check this out. Shout out to Hold Hands with Us. Go check out that YouTube channel and play those songs because they hit deep.
Peace, brother. Peace, 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 peace. I respect that. Thank you.
And shout out to um, us. You can find us both on Instagram. And if you have any questions, we're so here to be of service. Like literally, we will send you so much love and be of service in those DMs. So we got brother Moonas Magica. Hold hands with us on IG here. You can find me at conscious_bliss.111 or eternal.light.technology. And that's who we are. That's who we are.
We, just so y'all know, this, like, what was just shared now is a little glimpse of who we are. I know, like, the depths that I've plunged with Brother Light, which is just actually the natural state of simplicity, but it is the deepest, because it is the only. And yeah, I feel in my heart, you know, like what was shared here is podcasts. While I'm facilitating these podcasts, like, wow, this is just another way. This is just another way to share God's love. But there's so many ways, and I ask that you listening, you go and sit. Put everything to the side. Go and sit by yourself. And go into your body, scan your body, witness your breath, pull your attention back. And realize that you don't have to try anymore. You don't even have to think anymore. All you have to do is be yourself and witness what happens. Witness the kindness. Witness the unconditional love. Because in this moment, there is no ego. There is no separation. There is no conflict. There is no problems in the eternal now. We must come to the point of the distinction between the divine and the demonic, the angelic and the animal. We must come to the awareness that it's not even far out anymore, that there is no more spirituality. There is no more techniques, no more practices, no more breath work. None of that is going to get you to where you already are. You might do the breath work, but do it as God. Don't do it to get somewhere else, because there is no somewhere else. There's only now. Brother Light, do you have the flute on you?
I don't, but there are monkeys in the tree behind me.
Well, maybe the flute. Maybe the monkeys can be the flute, but
But I do recall earlier in the podcast we were going to do a little moment of just a little inward journey.
yes.
And I really think it's very important that like you call people inside, of course, and just for us to recognize that energy is always going out of us. Like there's William Blake calls it the light of awareness. I don't see with my eyes, I see through my eyes.
Mm,
So we're shooting energy out of our eyes, and that's how we actually see.
wow.
So when we take that energy, instead of shooting it out of our eyes, we close our eyes and we give that energy inward. The natural and inherent happening is that that energy will rise and it will go up the spine and it will literally christen your consciousness and it will bring you back to the state of coherent wholeness, which you've always been, always will be, and always are. So Our message, thy message, ultimately, that we carry, that we steward, is to always just remind y'all to go back into your heart, to go, that's monkeys throwing stuff at the roof, to literally just be the divine grace that you already are. Like you were born a perfect expression of God's love. Like that's what you are. And you exist because of God's love, and you emanate God's love everywhere, every day. So when you be silent instead of just giving that energy out all the time, you just bring it back in. Like do this once a day at least, but do this throughout the day. Like just come back to the awareness of God's love, the
Absolutely.
present, the presence. Oh yeah, like God's
As
love is
much as
literally
possible.
all around me right now. And the more you can soak in that, the more you can give it out, and you can pass that to your brothers and sisters. So the reminder would be, if you want to follow all of the laws of creation, you only need to remember one commandment.
Yes. What is it?
Love God with all of your heart and love your neighbor as God.
Ah,
And you immediately follow all of the commandments absolutely
wow.
perfectly and live a life that is in alignment.
Take us
You
out with
looking?
the tune, brother. Take us out with the tune.
Okay, while I tune this tune, may we all tuned here take some deep conscious breaths and just feel the presence of God that is here now. It's in your very consciousness, in your very body. And just feel the wholeness and the completion that you are right now. Love, joy, hope, unity, peace, harmony, wholeness, and balance, family. Love you.
Leaving you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator family. Adonai. Enjoy this now. All is well. Be yourself. Sat Nam.